Hey, welcome back. This video, we're going to talk about t-shirts and why it is that t-shirts from the store kind of fit so poorly. Now, I love t-shirts, and the thing I like about them, I think, is because they're made out of a knit and they're easy to care for. As far as the fit goes, I hate the fit, and the reason being is that they just are kind of oversized. If I get them to fit in the bust, then they're really big at the bottom, and they have too much dart space in the front, and the fit is just lousy. So in this video, I'm going to kind of run through what is done to a basic bodice pattern to create the t-shirt that you most likely will pick up at the store. And you have to admit that if you buy a t-shirt for $5, you kind of get what you pay for, right? You're not going to get a lot of fit, but you only pay $5 for it. So if you're paying $65 for one of those upper end t-shirts, I sure as heck want more fit than what I'm getting, which would make it, I think, justifiable to make your own t-shirts. If you're willing to pay $65 for a t-shirt, you're going to get a better fit and at a lower price, right? So the manufacturers, what do they do to the basic pattern to get it to the $5 stitchable pattern? So the first thing they probably do is they probably ignore this dart space in the front. So basically they just don't stitch that, which creates a wedge underneath your bust that may not be desirable. Okay, so the next thing they probably do is they just square down this line at the side seam because they want it to stitch together really, really fast, and they probably think that taking off part of this here corrects some of the wedge underneath the pattern. So then they probably go ahead and just square from the center front over to the side. Voila, you have a t-shirt pattern. Okay? They ignore all of this stuff here. Very square, very boxy, straight up and down, easy to stitch. All right, so what about the back? Again, they most likely just ignore this, and they probably square down from the arm's eye and then square across like that. All right, then they're going to check to make sure actually that these stitch together, and they'll walk them. Let me check here. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the side of this paper here so you can kind of see that that is most likely the case, that they're walking together. So there you go. Little bit short here, so maybe they raise up or lower down. Oop, I'm sorry, here is my deal here. So I would imagine that they probably say that here is my new side seam, and just square across, lengthening the back a bit. Okay, so they're going to ignore all of this stuff in here, and there's the new t-shirt pattern. Okay, long here, a little bit longer in the back, square up the side, front, square up the side. Okay, so now they still have, they're not going to be willing to stitch this here because anytime you have to stitch extra stuff, it costs money. So probably what they have done is they've cut into this space like that, into the dart, and they have closed it by matching up parallel to the side seam like that. Put some tape to hold it all down. And then they have just redrawn in this curve space. Gotta find the right curve here. Going from, there we go. So there's the new armhole. Okay? And we're going to ignore all this stuff over here. And then the armhole walks together. Let's trim this away so you can see it. The armhole walks together pretty nicely. No crazy adjustments or anything like that. Okay? So there's your t-shirt, and you as the consumer are left with kind of a boxy shirt. Armhole is probably going to be okay. You're going to have a big wedge of fabric right underneath your bust. Back is probably going to be kind of okay, and there you go. All right. So the back of the pattern, this sort of a thing is not too bad. If you have a large bottom, this might be a little bit tight if it's going down too far onto your hip, in which case you could, kind of angle this back out so that you have a little bit more space in through here. The front is probably the item that I have most issue with because of this crazy little dart space right here. And because this is probably made up in a cup size, size B, and I am actually a double D, when I put this on, it's going to be too tight across the bust here, and I'm going to get lines that radiate up like this from the back of my garment, and I'm going to have a big wedge of fabric right under here, underneath my bust, that just is going to look unfitted. And if I get it big enough to go across the bust here, this wedge gets even bigger, and it starts to look like something my grandmother would have worn. Okay, and I don't particularly care for that. So I am going to stop here, and I'm going to come back with some patterns that are a little bit cleaned up here so that we don't have to go through and look at all this pen. And I'm going to show you some alterations that I'm going to do to make these patterns look a little bit better. Okay, be right back. Okay, so we're back with our t-shirt that has kind of been cleaned up. And this would most likely be kind of what I was pulling out of the package of maybe one of the commercial pattern companies. Pretty blocky, pretty non-fitted. Okay, so looking at the back of the pattern here, I would say there's probably not too much that I would want to do here on the pattern, unless I know for some reason that I have really slopey or really kind of squared shoulders. I could come to the shoulder here and either raise it up by just extending this line and redrawing to the high neck shoulder point, or starting down here lower and just redraw to the high neck shoulder point. I would have to do the same on the front of the pattern, knowing that I have either slopey or square shoulders, adjust that shoulder slope. So that would be something that I would kind of be aware of in my patterns in general. Okay, so the back I probably wouldn't be too concerned about doing anything to just right out of the envelope, other than maybe that shoulder. Now the front of the pattern, knowing that most patterns, or almost all patterns, are made with a B-size cup, I would probably measure across here and determine that this may not be wide enough for me. And I don't want to add to just the side here, because I'm going to assume that this arm side fits me pretty well. And if I just add to the side, it's just going to make this big and make a big gap dart space in my arm's eye. What I'm going to do is the full bust adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead and draw up to what would be my bust. And I could determine what my bust measurement is by measuring down from my high point shoulder to what my bust level is. And that would be, you know, approximately right there. And I could determine how far over my bust is by measuring bust point to bust point and then dividing that by 2 to determine that, you know, my bust point is maybe right there because I know how wide this is. Okay, so assuming that's where the bust point is, I'm going to draw down and over to the arm's eye like that. And then I'm going to cut. Actually, I think I'm going to do this with 2 dart spaces just because it's a little bit easier to see one more adjustment that I have to make. So I'm going to draw another line across like that. I'm going to cut up this line and I'm going to cut over here and I'm going to leave it hinged on that second cut. So here we go. I'm going to cut over 2. I'm going to leave a little hinge right there, which means I have to cut into the paper this way. Okay, and then I'm going to cut across here. And I'm going to leave a little hinge. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this apart, keeping this parallel here, these 2 lines parallel, and increase this dart space whatever I need it to be. In which case, it would probably be about 1 inch on my body because I'm a double D. Okay, so we've pulled that apart. We've created another dart space here, and we've increased the circumference across the pattern. We also have changed the length here. So let's go ahead and slip a piece of paper underneath here just so that we have something to tape to. So there's that. Let's stick a little piece of tape right there. And then I'm going to cut across this pattern to add some length. And in most cases, if I'm bigger than the original pattern, I also need some length there also to go over my bust. I'm going to estimate that about 1 inch. And then I'm going to move this pattern down, keeping this parallel, the length that I need to get these 2 lines to match up. All right, and I have now done a bust increase. So now I probably have enough space across here to go across my bust to eliminate all of those radiating lines, because now I have enough bust space, and I have increased across here. So now I have probably a little bit more wedge in here than I like, and now I have to deal with this dart space over here, which I kind of really don't want. Okay, so I'm going to put some more paper. No, I'm not. I'm not going to put any more paper. I'm going to create a French dart because French darts are not as obvious as a bust, side bust dart, and when people look at it, they'll look at your t-shirts and say, oh, you have a different kind of t-shirt on, instead of just the same old t-shirts that you're getting from anywhere else, and you have a better fit. So let's go ahead and cut into this dart space, like so. I'm going to cut through, up to but not through that little tip. I'm going to leave myself a little hinge. And then I'm going to rotate that up and tape it. So now I have a dart here. I have a little bit of an increase here in the bust, so it's going to fit me better across this way. Because I've added this dart, I'm not going to have as much wedgy, odd shape in here. And I could even take out more of this wedgy shape if I wanted to by making this dart just a little bit bigger. So this is, I think I would make it up at this point, try it on, and then double check for darts to see if maybe this dart needs to be a little bit bigger, to pull this maybe a little bit tighter, and then I would make an adjustment in my pattern and then call it my final pattern and call it good. So, so this at this point is looking a little bit kind of messy, and I would take paper at this point and lay it on top like so, and I can see through this fairly well. I don't know if you guys can, but I can see through this, and I would just go ahead and trace off this pattern with whatever I needed. Like so. A little space right here. I have this here, like that. Putting that in there. My sleeve should still fit. If I've added or subtracted from my shoulder slope, I need to make a sleeve adjustment, right? And primarily I would make that sleeve adjustment by raising or lowering the cap height. So if you're not familiar with sleeves, look at the sleeve video on how to create sleeve heads and how they relate to the bodice, arm size. Okay, so there's my legs to my dart, like so. There's my cleaned up pattern off of all of my adjustments. And I'm going to finish that up by folding out my dart leg, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put in here, let me get rid of this in the background. I'm going to draw from the middle of my dart there to my dart point. And if you decide that this is too close to the dart or the bust point, you can back this off a little bit down here by about 1 inch and then redraw it, and you will get a nice clean, not so pointy point on your dart at the bust. So there is my my dart folded in half. I'm going to fold that down like that to the dart tip, and then I'm going to open it back up, so my side seam, and then I'm going to trim that following the side seam. And there is my dart wedge in order to make that fit back into the side seam, get stitched in the side seam, and it matches the shape of my pattern. I missed that a little bit, didn't I? I have folded it down because all darts fold down that are vertical. Excuse me, horizontal. Horizontal darts fold down. And when I fold it down, that is the dart wedge that I get. So you can kind of see how important it is to fold out darts. When I do have it folded out and down, Did I actually get it folded down? Let's check. No, I didn't. I have it folded up. That's why it turned out a little bit different looking. If I fold it down, it's going to turn out a little bit different. It's going to have a space that juts more out if you have it folded down correctly. So from example here, be sure to make sure that your darts that are on a horizontal plane are folded down before you trim out your dart space. Okay? So then when I actually do fold this out, and it's like that, I can lay my my t-shirt, and I have this pattern backwards, so let's trim this off so we can kind of see where that is. All right, so here's my side seam. On the back, I have this all folded out. I have my side on the back trimmed so I can see where it's at. And I'm going to come from the bottom. I'm going to walk that up to the top like that. And if I'm coming up what it looks like a little bit shy here, depending on which produces a nicer curve, it looks like I'm going to lower this down just a little bit and then just redraw it back up to get my my side seams to walk correctly. Okay, so then I would go ahead and stitch this pattern up and take a look at it and see whether or not I've taken out enough dart space in here. And I would also double check to see if this armscye fits nice and smooth to my body. Another thing that might happen is they may have given you a little bit more dart space in here than you like. So if you want to tighten this up, make this a little bit closer to your body, you can draw in however much dart space you pinched out in your test garment. So let's say I really wanted to kind of make this into more of a t-shirt type deal. And anytime you get rid of a sleeve here, there is some space that opens up as gaposis. I know you guys have seen this, and I know you've done it. So in your test garment, just pinch out however much you feel like you want out of that space to make it look good, and just measure the distance at the armscye there, and then transfer that information to your pattern piece and draw in these lines. Kind of rough there. Okay, so let's also say, just for giggles, since we're kind of talking about rotating out dart spaces possibly in like a t-shirt or a garment that you have the pattern in and you want to change it into a t-shirt. So or a tank top, and I'm wanting to scoop out this neckline a little bit. So I'm thinking, you know, here is the middle. Maybe I want to go in a little bit, and I want to come here and I'm going to scoop this out, and I'm going to ignore these lines, right? I'm going to have to make sure that this is kind of square right here at center front so that I don't get a point or a V shape. So I'm going to connect that line over to that little squared piece. Okay, so anytime I cut into my neckline here, I'm going to get gaposis off of, if it's not reaching up to my neck and it hasn't been adjusted, you're going to get some gaposis in here because the body dips a little bit between the bust and the neckline. So all you do is, again, pinch out the space that you don't need, just like you did in the arm here, and just draw a line that radiates to the bust. Mark out how much space that is that you measured and draw to the bust point. Okay, so now I have this t-shirt and I have 2 more darts that I've generated in my t-shirt that I do not really want. Okay, so I am going to cut up the middle of my French dart to the bust point, but not through. I am going to cut this arm's eye dart up to but not through, and this neck point I am going to cut up to but not through. Okay, let me get this all turned around. So here we go. So now I am going to close this dart space at the neck like that. I have essentially transferred the space over here, but that's okay because I'm just going to go ahead and close this one again. There we go. And now I have increased this French dart even more. So I'm going to put piece of paper under here and then fold out this dart so that it folds down towards the bottom of my garment, and then retrue that side seam to get that dart wedge that I need so that it stitches into my side seam. Up here, I am just going to take my curved ruler and I'm just going to redraw this arm's eye so that it's nice and smooth, and I have a nice kind of horseshoe shape when I put the front and the back of the garment together. Okay, just something that looks kind of pleasing to the eye. It has a nice shape. There's nothing really magical about it other than it just is nice and curved. So here's my neck edge. I'm going to get a nice curve on that space as best as I can. I have to maintain this little right angle for about a 1/4 of an inch right there at center front, because otherwise it creates an angle that I don't want. So now that I have that done, I'm just going to go ahead and trim out this piece like that. I'm going to trim out this piece here. Like so. Here's my shoulder. Let's trim that off just because we can. And here is my center front. Center back, excuse me, hem. So I have created a t-shirt that has a French dart. Actually, it's a little tank top that has a French dart in it. And if I close that up, my garment has a curve to it, which accommodates my bust. Okay. I've taken the curve out of the neckline here so that it hugs my neckline. I've taken the curve out of, or added more curve in here so that it hugs the arm's eye, more curve in here so that it hugs my neckline, and just transferred those 2 spaces down in here so that I have a nice clean tank top at this point with a French dart down here, which makes my circumference around my waist a little bit less, a little bit more attractive. I don't have that, that big dart space hanging out underneath my bust. So that is, was originally supposed to be just a t-shirt. If you don't want a tank top type thing, just don't do these alterations here unless you find that you need it because you have a little bit of gaposis that looks a little funny. When you wear the garment, it looks like you have a dart space that you didn't stitch. Don't trim away your spaces here if you want to just keep the t-shirt. And then it should all walk to the back of your pattern. If you did do the tank top type of application, you need to just do the same here. Find the kind of the center of your garment, and then match these shoulder seams, and then just taper that up to whatever your t-shirt tank is supposed to be. All right. And if after you've tried this on, if you find that there's any gaposis in here or here, just pinch out however much it looks like it needs to be. And then rotate both of these darts out to the bottom to create a little bit more flare in the back of your t-shirt. If you don't like that flare at the back of your t-shirt, you can just come in a little bit on this side and then come back up to the arm point like this. And you have essentially just transferred that space over to here. Trim that off, and it'll be a little bit snugger at the bottom of your garment, but the gaposis in here will be gone. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. If the video is a little bit too much information, too fast, or if it's too confusing, after we've had it up for a little while, maybe we'll redo it. But for now, that's kind of the in and out of t-shirts. And if you have gaposis at the arm's eye and the neck area, you can just transfer that out into any dart space that you've decided to keep. And the reason that you have this dart space is because you don't want it, this big wedge of fabric that appears under the bust. You're trying to clean it up a little bit and have made that dart, that French dart. Okay. Hope that is clear as mud. If you have any questions, you can always email me at notthenorm62@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Until then, talk to you later. Bye.